Alrighty, everybody, we are back at Rhodes Stadium for the fifth and final game of the regular season here at home. And so it's already crazy to think that 5 games later, this is where we are now. And this is where we are now, meaning 6-3. And coming off of a big win last week against the University of Delaware Blue Hens. And, you know, beating a ranked team is definitely a big feat that we can't forget. And this is where we really need to make sure we pivot in the right way as we move on to today's game and to next week's as well, and when we get to Hampton on the road. And so, you know, a lot to expect coming into today's game, offensively, defensively, and as with anything, I think it's important to mention now that obviously last week things worked, especially when we understood more so towards the second half that we really needed to focus more on gaining that ball possession, right? And it showed in the last several games, whether it was here at home or on the road for Elon, where, you know, the team who really possessed the ball essentially won the game. And last week, Elon really maintained that momentum and really managed all that well. And therefore, that's why we won 27-7, because we maintained the ball. Defense, we had important turnovers. Okay, University of Delaware, as we mentioned last week, got to the end zone, or red zone rather, and that's when we got fumbles, got interceptions. So, kind of a brief recap from last week. So, like I said, 5th game at home here on the wonderful campus of Elon University. Elon's currently undefeated at home. Okay, they're 4-0 at home. Hopefully they can extend that streak today. They're 4-2 against conference teams and currently 2-3 on the road. Hopefully we can make that an even 500 next week. 500 meaning 3-3. As the Phoenix look to make a push for the playoffs, okay? They are in great standings at this moment of making the playoffs. And if they win today, I believe they can officially have a bid to make the playoffs. I believe they can officially secure that bid today. From what I heard, that could change, but from what I heard, they can have their bid in the playoffs. So hopefully we can secure that. They need the win today, though, and they actually need the win next week on the road. And so, a little bit about not Elon University, as much as we love talking about Elon University, but a little bit about the University of Albany. They are the Great Danes. Okay, University of Albany, Great Danes. Their record, everybody. Can I get like a drum? I know there's music in the background, but can we like mute that out and get like a drum roll? Because we really need a drum roll right now, because their record, get this, is 2-6. But it's important that Elon doesn't diminish that by any means whatsoever. We can't let that get to their heads, because last week the Great Danes of University of Albany won 59-14 at home against Stony Brook. I feel like a lot of teams in our conference has had a big win against Stony Brook, but that's neither here nor there. Because the week prior, they had a close game with Villanova, but in the end, lost 29-31. Another big thing to mention briefly here right now is that they are 1-4 in the conference, 2-2 at home, and they are 0-4 on the road, while on the other hand, we are 4-0 at home. So I think that is in our favor. But again, we can't let a 2-6 record get in our way of getting too confident, because oftentimes what I've seen in not only football but just sports in general is that when a team thinks they're going to win by a lot, they end up losing by a lot. So we can't let that shift anything around in terms of our momentum. As they gear up for the remainder of the season, they do have, to the point I just made, they have the unique ability to diminish teams from having any hopes to get in the playoffs like they do today. They have the unique ability, since they're at the point now where they're not making the playoffs necessarily, so they have the unique ability, as I just said, to take the hopes of teams away that do have the ability to enter the playoffs. So today here at Rhodes Stadium, if they're really confident enough, they can beat us and take away any hope of us getting anywhere close to the playoffs by any means. So, again, hopefully that doesn't happen, but again, it all ties back into the defense really stopping the ball on their end, getting the ball back, and us keeping the ball, and distinguishing the score to a point where they can't catch back up. So it alleviates both off the offense and defense. So a lot of work to be done. And so let's talk about that then. All right, let's talk about the offense first, the defense second, wrap everything up, and then go watch some football and get some lunch while we talk about that too, because food's always good, right? So what to expect offensively for Elon? Last week, they again figured out their passing game and their rushing game. They both balanced each other out effectively the way they needed to. So Elon rushed for 179 yards in the victory, marking the 8th time that the team has surpassed 120 yards on the ground in 2022. Bryson Daughtry, a great name this season that has been coming up time and time again. He caught a pass for the 39th straight game. He even has at least 2 catches in every game this year. So he's been an effective weapon on the field, an effective player, an effective receiver, and he is a guy that we do not want to let go. Do not want to transfer him. Do not want him to graduate. He needs to stay at Elon, in Elon, forever and ever. He can be an 80th year football player, right? An 80th year senior, 80th year football player. I mean, that'd be great. But we'll see. Jordan Bonner, he's been another name that's been coming up over the last couple weeks. He led Elon last week with 59 yards receiving, adding 4 receptions. Jalen Hampton, I mean, yet another name that's come up time and time again. He ran the ball 32 times for 136 yards, his third 100-yard game of the season. Chandler Brayboy added 4 catches for 45 yards. He also had 2 kick returns for 73 yards. And here's the word that I love, or the phrase rather, that I love the most: ball control. Elon held the ball for 36 minutes and 59 seconds, while Delaware's time of possession was only 23 minutes and 1 second. So we gained the momentum on that side of things, and that's what football's all about. That's why I love offense so much, is because you can even have something crazy like 10 minutes of possession time and still win the game by 30 points. So that wasn't the case last week. But even though we still won the game by 20 points and we got the job done. So what to expect from the University of Albany, the Great Danes, offensively. On the first drive of the game last week, UAlbany marched 85 yards on 10 plays, and took a 7-0 lead with Reese Pfaffenbarger found Julian Hicks over the top for a 25-yard touchdown. Okay, that's pretty darn good. Those are some bragging rights right there. Following the turnover on downs, the quarterback aired out one for Quinn Zinabal, connecting for his 56 yards on the first play of the drive. Then Todd Sibley completed a 69-yard drive, rushing for a 15-yard score shortly after, giving them the 52-0 advantage in the game. So when they have the ability to make a play every once in a long while, they will make the play. So that's something that they really need to narrow in on and really adjust to before the play even starts. Right? They can have the unique ability to look at the spread as they're all lining up and be able to shift around everything at the last second. So Elon's done good with that, more so towards like the second half of games, and they can do so yet again this game. So what to expect defensively? There were a lot of players that forced a lot of turnovers, right? And so that's going to be the big topic of discussion. And even last week against Delaware, they posted just 86 yards of offense in the second half. So we were able to really kind of narrow that down, because in the first half, there was a different story, right? And so in the first half, it was just anybody's game. It was really going back and forth. Both sides of the ball were getting, both sides of the offense were getting just yards galore, really, just yardage after yardage after yardage. So again, Elon was able to adjust in the second half, as they normally do, and really tighten the gap and held them to 86 yards of offense. The Blue Hens were held to just 19 yards rushing on 16 carries. It was the fewest more so towards the second half, rather. So 19 yards rushing on 16 carries in the second half. It's the fewest rushing yards allowed since holding the Citadel to 18 rushing yards on October 10th of 2009. So as if we made a lot of history, well, we did make a lot of history last week, and we just made even more last week. And so for Albany, University of Albany only allows Stony Brook to be 1 on 11 on third down conversions. They allowed Stony Brook to obtain a total of 234 yards, 124 of them being passing, while the other 110 were rushing yards. On the first play of the second quarter, Stony Brook's McKee threw his second interception of the day. Brown was in position to receive the overthrown pass and carried the ball 25 yards to Stony Brook's 35-yard line. So, I mean, again, it's just both teams can do stuff when they want to. And so it's going to be a good matchup. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be close, a little more close for comfort. Hopefully it's not, but we'll see. And last but not least, I think it's important to say that today is November 5th, and it's right around 80 degrees. Mid-70s, partly cloudy, and it's beautiful. It's more so like a day we would expect in May. And so I think it's important to wrap up with that because it's fall. It should be getting cold, like really cold, and it feels like summer. So without further ado, let's go Elon, let's go Phoenix, and it should be a good matchup. Football.